this is going to be exciting now because we are going to talk with my panelists about blockchain gaming for seniors. And I'm certain that the Future Blockchain Summit organizers, they arranged this hot seat specifically for me because I am the crypto granny, also known as Anita Kalergis. So this will be surely exciting because I also have my panelists here who are true professionals in the space. So if I may ask Neeraj Roy from Hungama Digital Media to join me, welcome. And Sumeet Surana from Cypher Capital as well. You can sit there, that's nice. So, when we saw the headline or the title of this panel, the first question that, raised in my head at least was that, okay, how do we define a senior? I come from I've been doing sports all my lifetime, which is a long time. And in sports, a senior is someone who is from 21 to 25 years old. So in this specific, subject, how would you define a senior?
Thanks. First of all, good afternoon, and wonderful to be back here at GITEX. And everybody, give it up here for Crypto Granny. You are absolutely right, Anita, that I think the term seniors is, if I look at gaming. Oh, there is oh, lovely. Join us. Ralph.
So we have one more panelist joining us. Amazing you could made it. I need to check, like Mobilium Global Limited, Ralph Simon, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is going to be an incredible session.
So
please,
yes, taking on from there, when you look at gaming, you essentially look at 4 segments, right? At the bottom of the pyramid is casual mobile gaming. On top of that, you've got, what we call as casino-based real money gaming. Then you've got fantasy sport, and right at top is esports. In esports, clearly anybody who's 23 or 24 is a senior.
Uh-oh.
Whereas when you would go into your casino-based gaming, potentially 45 and above will be seniors, but that's also the core of the gamers. When you look at the entire spectrum of casual mobile gaming, that would range from 4 years to 80. And hence, it's really up to you and which market and what kind of gameplay you're talking about that'll work around. So that's I think you've got to be young at heart. That's all you have to be as far as a gamer.
Well, sure, and that's certainly something that all the panelists are. But tell me, Ralph, how would you define a senior in a blockchain gaming?
I think from what I've observed in terms of seniors and their different ways of using gaming, for example, in the traditional definition of seniors, just chronologically, this might apply to particular engagements where gaming is used for enhancing personalized health and muscular strength. However, in gaming, exactly as Neeraj has articulated, the sense that gaming, particularly mobile gaming, and let's look at the most important, or shall we say widespread mobile game in the world, which is called PUBG, which is owned by Tencent, really remarkable, ubiquitous delivery. It is exactly, as Neeraj said, from 8 to 80. So I think you have to really divide it into the 3 areas, the under 23s, as Neeraj said, then your secondary category of the console gamers that go really up to 60, because console gaming has been around for 50 years now, really. And if you go back to the very early stages of the first games, you're looking at that kind of time frame. And then when you're looking at seniors in the traditional, not geriatrics, but certainly the senior citizens, and in America, that definition starts at the age of 55. And so that is a whole area where mobile continues to play a significant role.
True that. So Sumeet, how would you define a senior blockchain gamer?
I think it's a very contextual question that Neeraj really articulated well. For me, when I played Roblox, I felt like a senior because I couldn't find anyone of my age playing that. But generally, if you see across the game, like I see my mom and my grandparents playing a lot of Candy Crush kind of games, which are very easy for them to understand, which it's a lot of fun for them as well to understand. So if you define blockchain gaming, it has to be across what kind of game you are building. If it's a fantasy RPG game, then I would call anyone about 30 or even about 40 to be a senior. If it's a hyper casual game, then there's no limit. It could be played by an age group of what Neeraj says from 4 to 80. So it completely depends on the game what you are playing. If it's an e-sport, then again, like as you said, 23 above is a senior. So it depends completely on the context. But on crypto side, mostly what we are seeing right now is more RPG kind of games, but not a lot of hyper casual coming in. So I would like to see more of that, and that maybe it could be a good segue to our next topic of discussion.
True that. And in this context and within this conversation, because I think that all the discussion around gaming in this in GITEX and in Future Blockchain Summit is kind of having the from 8 to 80 approach, but I would like to still cut it maybe there a bit like US stylish, like 55 and above, because I personally see that there is an audience, a target audience to so many, gaming providers and gaming coders and companies to like look into, because obviously people of that age and above, they usually or in many cases are financially quite okay. They usually also have the time to spend in the gaming, and obviously for sure they are curious and interested to jump into the new. So would you be able to, if we think that we would name like two paths, we have the play to earn games, and then of course we have all these traditional video games. So which one and why would our seniors globally choose to play? And if you can give some examples of these games, for instance.
So I think just as a precursor to that, and for the benefit of the audience, first let's just define. It's currently about little over a $200 billion business, right? And over the next 5 years, projected to grow to about 340 billion. Now, when you compare that to, let's say, other forms of entertainment, you look at filmed entertainment, you look at the world of music, already gaming is larger than both music and filmed entertainment put together. A big chunk of this comes out of two big clusters. There is the entire sort of, casino-based real money gaming space, because the casual mobile gaming space is largely ad-funded, and it kind of acts like a funnel which draws consumers into the evolution of the next phases. And then at the top of the pyramid, esports as a category has really captured the imagination of consumers as well as developers, publishers around, because on the back of both the kind of hardware that's coming around, the sort of experiences that are happening in homes now, average television sizes are 55-inch and above, so you can get that. The space of play to earn is relatively new in context, wherein it's really an outlook of the entire Web3 space, where aspects of fractional ownership are a part of this. The early examples, of course, range from, what happened with Axie Infinity, what companies like Animoca brands are doing, a range of their games. But unfortunately, in the first phase, the early phase, the kind of gameplay that happened was fairly tardy, if I may say so, because real gamers have been exposed to some very high quality gameplay. And this, because of the kind of attention that Play to Earn got in the last about 18 to 24 months, and both with the hype and the bust at the same time, you've got now, I believe, at least 100 major publishers who are looking at that space and bringing onto the table, quality games which will basically enable. Where seniors, etc., come into play is if the game economics, see, this is ultimately about time spent, right? Now, you are either spending the time in that you are either making purchases which are digital goods. The global market for digital goods is a fairly large $180 billion market across various segments. Or alternatively, the ecosystem is facilitating that for the time that you're spending, we will give you fractional ownership of that. And that's really what is drawing to play toward. I think Sumeet will be able to add a lot more to that.
I think the first concept about crypto gaming has to, like gaming in general it has to be fun, which a lot of play-to-earn game weren't earlier. Like a lot of people were playing Axie Infinity, but it was just mining with additional steps. They were just making money out of it, not having fun. So the next wave, we are also funding on and we want to see is the game that are actually fun to play, and then earning would be a side part of it. Now coming to the senior side of it, I think what seniors also look for is one, the game needs to be fun enough for them to pass time it on. Rather than watching Netflix or something else, they would want to play the game. They will have an angle to it. One angle which is missing right now is the community piece into it. So how can we bring the community piece into the real game so that they could be more fun, they could be more intuitive, and it would be more interesting for people to play. The earning side again would come if the game is good, and I don't think that's the major motivation for seniors in itself, because they would rather have, they're mostly like what I see my parents and grandparents, they would rather spend time on the game if it's fun to play. They have a lot of things to do anyway, so earning is very the last thing that they want to do. It's more just to have fun, have a good time, and then keep the brain running, keep the brain active also in some ways.
True that. What is your take on this, Ralph? How do you see it? Like, why are the seniors, why do they want to play? And obviously also, if you have any good examples of the games that you know, for instance, that the elderly people would find attractive or fun and entertaining, like Sumeet mentioned.
If you do a survey of senior citizens in the United States, always a good reference point, and you look at the kind of games that are prevalent in a 55-plus category, you're looking at traditional games like, for example, bridge, or like cards, or in Asia, mahjong, something along those lines. And what has the digital conversion been like for that older age group? Certainly, if you're looking at 55 to 65, there's now much better knowledge of the use of mobile devices, and mobile clearly is an important way in which they can do that. And of course, in all senior communities, of which there are thousands, not only in North America, but also all over Europe, and in all of the major countries in Asia, obviously differs by culture, but the whole notion of collective time engagement, making people feel that they're doing something valid with their time whilst they're concerned too about their health. One example I wanted to raise, which I think is important, is in the traditional console gaming space, you're seeing the emergence of some incredibly popular global teams. One of the teams that is really almost top of the list of the top 3 gamer teams in the world is called FaZe Clan. They're based in Los Angeles, but they have some 60 esports athletes that play games, and they have 600 million fans and supporters around the world. I don't know what the demographic is. It's probably skewed younger because of the games they play, but just think of that. If there's a team that's in the top 3 teams, the top 3 teams are 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, and this team, FaZe Clan, 600 million. There is a very interesting challenge to the senior community to be able to engage in stuff like this. One of the most important companies in the whole area of looking at senior citizens is called Age Wave. It's been around for many, many years, and they literally defined what products, services, and engagement is done to the older community. Age Wave, very, very important. It's based in Berkeley, California, but they are probably the most knowledgeable in the world about the way that you engage senior citizens.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'd like to give another example since you've talked about. So we have a game studio out of Hyderabad in India with about 300 game developers. And this is about 2.5, 3 years back. In one of our reviews, my team tells me that, we've been mandated to develop a fishing game. And I said, really, what's the market for that? I said, no, it's a very big market or whatever. Cut to, lo and behold, what they did now is they took 50 of the most prominent lakes, rivers, locations from around the world, prominently across North America, US, Canada, etc. And using, core sort of gaming technology in terms of, working on Unreal, etc., simulated the entire 3D world of those lakes and rivers. Now, fishing is a big thing, in Canada and in North America. In the cold, when seniors are not able to go, you have the ability to bring in haptic features into the console as well. And guess what? This company for whom we did this work currently generates $6.5 million a month on that game as an example. So here's an example of, a title, which we wouldn't have thought about.
Just out of curiosity, was that in the mind of what were the target customers when you were building the game?
No, so our game studio works with all the major, companies. We're working with Activision, we're working with the EA, Jam City, etc. So this was one of them. They briefed us on that. We didn't have that. We actually developed the game, for them. The publisher is somebody else. But that's the size of, and I clearly can't see an 18-year-old sort of, doing fishing at home, as it were. So that's a clear case of a senior.
But that's awesome. When I go fishing back home, I never catch any fish. So maybe I get lucky with this, so we certainly need to connect. But actually, you mentioned already a couple of times, a couple of things that I have had in my mind once we knew that we will be having this panel and what the title is. Because obviously there is several reasons why we would want to encourage the seniors and elderly people to jump into this, gaming space, if you wish. There is a lot of elder people that are extremely lonely around the globe. They find these games many times entertaining, they can be very interactive, and obviously the more the technology develops, the more interactive it becomes. For their mental health and for their health in general, that is something that we definitely want to encourage. Memory games in regards like Alzheimer or dementia. So if they keep, their heads active and the brain is, is challenged, that's good. A lot of countries are having many months of extremely cold, which is the case back home in Finland. And here in Dubai, well, we all have just experienced the past 4 months, not fun. So the elderly people especially, they are sensitive for this weather and spend much more time indoors. So obviously it would be amazing if they are entertained and active and all that. But having said all of that, do we need to protect them from something within this space? What do you think, Ralph? Is there something the game developers and the gaming companies should consider as on, again, especially seniors as a target group? How can or should we protect them?
Those of you who are not familiar with Finland, an incredible country, 5.5 million people, best education system in the world. There's a famous Finnish word, and the word in Finnish is sisu. Has anyone heard of what that word, sisu? Sisu. There we are. Sisu means tenacity and really stick to it.
Determination, not giving up.
Not giving up. And so if one can create games, particularly for senior citizens, that really help develop sisu. I know the word is not familiar in English. All of those of you from India or South Asia that are sitting here watching this, not familiar. But Finland, remember, was the home of Nokia, still Nokia networks. and really incredible education, looking at the education of seniors. The whole notion, Anita, of what you'd mentioned about people with Alzheimer's, where memory and engagement, mental engagement, so very essential for mental health. I mean, just last week was Mental Health Day around the world, such an important focus and issue. And the notion of games, whether it's fishing, as Neeraj mentioned, which, by the way, is the third biggest sport in the United Kingdom, who knew? But the whole notion of developing games for seniors, this is a completely under-catered for area. If you are a game developer, or you're a tech developer, or you're involved in wanting to get audience with mobile, this is something that you should really look at doing, because there is a massive audience that would take advantage of that. Of course, how you communicate it to them is the big issue, but that is not as big a problem as actually creating some product.
No, absolutely. I think, sort of developing cognitive skills is clearly one of them. But there is, let's not kid ourselves, gaming and addiction also go hand in hand. And just as gaming, as in sort of casino gaming, as the Vegases and the Renos and the Macaus of the world, even there, gaming commissions have worked upon proactively between the companies, between the various casinos, to dissuade addiction, to work around in that. I'm happy to say that over the last 4-5 years, this has become an active conversation. I know this for a fact as a game developer and a publisher. There is an aspect and there are conversations that are happening. I was recently, a couple of months back, with the CEO of the British Esports Association, Chester King. And he was in India talking about, opportunities. They're hosting a big gig in, they just actually did it in Edinburgh recently. And what they were talking about is, one of the aspects is, how do you bring about responsible gaming? How do you encourage and you make sure that the balance, yes, loneliness, because ultimately gaming is all about, time pass and, doing that. How do you give the right kind of dopamine for that, but take away and then energize them for more productive areas, as it were? That is a fine balance, and I believe responsible companies will be looking towards that.
No doubt.
Yeah, I
So
think we all saw the power of gaming and entertainment during COVID, when there was nothing else to do. So we saw the daily active usage just gone up like crazy. People were just spending a lot of time on gaming, entertainment in general. But as Neeraj and Anita mentioned, there's a lot of downside to it. And I think one more thing which is missing right now, especially in the crypto world and crypto gaming, is the prevention of fraud, which again is a big problem, especially in the crypto world, because a lot of it's very easy to hack your wallet and give you wrong links to get everything from you. So I think that is one other area which I would like to see more work upon. And generally, just like if you're talking about crypto gaming for seniors, the UX is something that needs to be improved, the onboarding process, which is the issue right now in the whole crypto world. So if someone is able to solve that onboarding and fraud prevention, and obviously the responsible gaming side, that could be the next big thing.
And truly so. And as a crypto granny, obviously I'm a big believer in the future, in the digital assets and virtual money, cryptos, whatever that will be. So definitely I can confirm that we youngsters, we
That's
will
right.
be so rushing in. So I hope they get this problem solved ASAP. We have around 4 minutes time left of our panel. A quick answer. What, in your opinion, UAE can do to make this more like a gaming ecosystem here in the UAE? I mean, so much is happening within blockchain and Web3 space in general. The atmosphere all in all is very supportive. But when it comes to gaming, what could it do in order to be more attractive and really build a proper ecosystem here? Ralph.
First of all, the important thing about the UAE is there is a national crusade and, in fact, activism about digitizing Dubai. Sheikh Maktoum is obviously, and his Office of the Future here in Dubai, are very, very focused on digitizing so many aspects of life and have a special focus on senior citizens and the older communities to be able to make them much more aware and educated about digital devices, how to use it, and how to use it to enhance their lives. So at a national and governmental and senior level, top-down, areas of artificial intelligence, there is certainly definitive attempts at enhancing this for senior citizens and their welfare.
Neeraj.
So I think I'll give you an example. Already UAE and the Middle East is the fastest growing market in the world. So that's a fact. And that's from the consumer side. To Ralph's point, there is an ecosystem that's being developed within this region to support more and more. The example I'd like to give the audience is something that happened in India 6 months ago. In April, the government of India formed a task force, which is a 7-member task force was formed, and I was invited into that task force. What we were asked to do was to develop an entire roadmap and policy document in what we call as the AVGC XR sector. AVGC is a bit of a mouthful, but an acronym for animation, VFX, gaming, comics, and XR as in augmented virtual mixed reality, extended reality. And this task force looked at building a policy document which will see by 2032 a $90 billion industry emanating out of the region, much like, and with 2 million new jobs to be added over the next 10 years. The approach we took is exactly the same way 30 years ago, 35 years ago, the Indian government supported the Indian IT services or the software sector. At that time, they did 3 things. 1, they said, we will give a 10-year tax break. 2, they deducted, entire imports on hardware. And 3, that led to the evolution of software processing zones. My point is, I believe that these aspects of gaming, VFX, the virtual worlds that are getting created, the entire aspect of the metaverse, these are real environments. We haven't spoken about avatars. The fact is, in a couple of years, that's right, right here, but literally a year or 2 from now, each of us will have a bunch of them living their own persistent lives in the metaverse. In an environment like that, to build the right kind of ecosystem is a tremendous opportunity, because the metaverse itself is being touted as between an $8 to $10 trillion opportunity by 2030, as per Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley.
Awesome. Sumeet.
Yeah, I think on the ecosystem side, what's lacking is really highly talented people working out of UAE. So once we have that, the ecosystem is going to just grow from there. And we at Cypher Capital are also doing something about it. We are actually building a crypto hub in JBR, where the idea is to encourage crypto community, and one of the sector is gaming, obviously, over there. We'll have a gaming hub. We're also trying to set up something around gaming in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai as well, to inculcate the whole environment. And the broader idea is to just get good talent over here, because that once the talent comes in, everything flows behind it, the money flows behind it, more talented people come behind it. I think that's one area where I would urge the UAE government to work more on. I'm sure they are doing a lot with Golden Visa and new schemes that's coming along, so that's a step in the right direction. And I think in the next 10 years, UAE could become a very large hub of gaming per se.
So yes, and I truly believe that, like in everything else, also in this sector or within this space, UAE will do so much. There is a lot of waving back of the audience, so we have run out of our time. I want to thank you so much, Ralph and Neeraj and Sumeet, for joining me for this panel. And I'm truly hoping that, yes, the avatars will come soon, but I still don't want the avatars to replace us next year. So hope to see you then. Thank you, everyone, for sharing this time with us. Thank you very much.
I'd like to say a big thank you to Anita Kalergis, Kitos. In Finnish, that's how you say thank you. We would just like to ask Marcus Coe, here from Panvora, would you take a photograph? This is an historic gathering of people that are raising the issue for senior citizens. Remember, the average age of the senior citizen is growing. There are more people of 100 years old and more, and that's what we can look forward to, not just as the crypto granny, but everybody who wants to make money in the sector and be good at technology and show that GTEx is where all of this could be created. So, here we go. Give yourselves a big round of applause, and Anita especially.